Welcome, everyone, and welcome, Jen. Thank you so much for struggling through to be with us today. Um, so, thank you, everyone, for coming. We have a great crowd today. We had lots of signups. I think over 50 signed up and 24 in the room right now. So that's a nice crowd for us on a Thursday night. Um, so, for those of you who don't know Jen, you can go to a website and read all about her fantastic writing career. But I was going to give you the personal perspective because Jen is one of my quiet writing compadres. There's a small bunch of us who write from Pacific time. We write from 7 to 11, roughly somewhere in that area. And Jen is, I think, I would say, arguably the most steady of all of us. It's like she does much better than I do. I will disappear for a few months and take a break and then come back. And every time I come back, there's Jen, and I usually start early. I'm usually a 7 o'clock start if I'm coming on. And Jen is always there, either just before me or just after me. So the proof of the pudding in this is that the whole time we have known each other, and I remember we both had books coming out around the same time. So, what year was that, Jen, when we did Lies Like Wildfire?
Out.
Yeah, the launch. You remember when we had that little launch party
Um,
together?
2021.
2021. So
Yeah.
since 2021, when we kind of brought out two books together, Jen had her first YA thriller, Lies Like Wildfire, and I had a picture book, Go to Bed 10. Since then, I have written one more picture book of 36 pages, and Jen has written another two YA thrillers, which she sold, and she's just sold another two. And Jen, do you want to tell us about your new two-book deal?
Yeah, I get to announce it pretty soon, but I can talk about it. So yeah, I just signed. So I went from writing middle grade fantasy to young adult thrillers. So I wrote 7 middle grade fantasy and then 3 YA thrillers. And then I just signed a 2 book deal for 2 adult thrillers. So I am growing up as a writer now, finally writing for adults. Um, so yeah, I'm really excited. I'm really excited about it. And I did the middle grade with HarperCollins. The young adults were all with Delacorte Press, and then these now I'm with Thomas and Mercer for the next 2 adult books. So it's kind of fun too to meet kind of work with different people um and work with different publishing houses. So it's
Great.
been good. Yeah.
Big congratulations. And thank you so much, seeing as I know you're so busy with your edits and everything, for carving out this time to take us on this little twist and turny tour. Okay, I'm out of puns for the night. So so I'm gonna hand over to you, and then at the end I'll pop back on and do a Q&A. But I'll disappear for now, and you take it over.
Okay. Before I share my screen, by like a reaction, you can like physically raise your hand or you can hit one of those reaction buttons. How many of you are writing thrillers or want to write thrillers? And how many of you are more, okay, I see some, more interested in just, I mean, in whatever you're writing, just adding some more thrillery aspects and mystery or mysterious aspects to what you're writing. Okay. All right. I mean, this is for both. This is for everyone. Just curious. Okay, so we're gonna talk tonight about basically adding twists and turns to your novel, mysterious elements. This works with every single genre. So I hope that you get something from it that you can apply to your current projects. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. You see it?
Yep, we can see it. You're off and running.
Okay. So thrillers are very exciting to read and to write. And it's what it is, it's in how the story is told, not so much the story itself. So some of you may have read or gotten to the end of thrillers. I don't know how many of you read them, and I highly recommend reading them because they're very pacey, and all of the elements that I'm going to talk about are found in thrillers. Often when you get to the end, it can be anticlimactic. I don't know if you've noticed that, but at the end you're like, oh, that's all it was, or whatever. And the reason is because it's the mystery of a thriller that's really pulling you forward. And once that mystery is resolved, the book the book is very smart to just end very quickly after that, because now you know everything, and the book ends. And a really excellent thriller will give you an ending that kind of reframes everything, which is, we're going to talk about how to write an amazing ending. But sometimes it's just anticlimactic because what has been drawing you along is like wondering what is going on. And then once you know, you know. So you're not quite as interested anymore, and the book ends. And but the main experience of reading a thriller is not as much what lingers as the experience of reading the book. So it's more like a roller coaster, where it should feel exciting to read a thriller. It should be fun, it should be exciting, it should be scary, it should be all of these things, very suspenseful. And when the ride's over, the ride's over. That it's done. There's not a lot of lingering necessarily with thrillers. That's not really the point of them. The point is escape and fun and reading. Whereas other novels, you close them and you're thinking about it for the next 5 years. That's not the point of thrillers, although it's possible. I mean, sometimes I'm still thinking of certain books, but some of these other, like a contemporary novel, it's not about taking you on this wild ride. It's more about maybe walking a mile in somebody else's shoes. So there's just different purposes for them. But what we can all learn from thrillers is what keeps a reader reading, because at the end of the day, we've all put books down because we were just not as interested anymore. So these tips and tricks will keep readers reading. Okay. Their thrillers themselves as a genre are not necessarily formulaic. It's not like romance or straight mystery. There are many different ways to write a thriller. There's writing them backwards timelines. There's multiple narrators. There's just a lot of different ways. There's not really a strict formula like there is for, say, romance. And then the main common denominator is that the experience is supposed to be thrilling. So anyway, if you don't read thrillers, I highly recommend that you start. Okay, go to the next. Okay, so the get over here. Sorry, oh, okay. Sorry, I was just trying to learn how to navigate this system on the other side. Okay, so the mystery family tree is kind of under the mystery umbrella. There is mystery, suspense, and thriller. So mystery is generally, just to quickly go over these, a mystery is when basically the crime has already happened or the incident has already happened, and you're going along with a detective or a protagonist and you're trying to figure out what happened. So the scary thing is over. Now you're trying to solve the mystery. So think Agatha Christie. Now suspense is about the danger is looming and we're building dread and anxiety. And what's interesting about suspense is that the reader usually knows a lot more than the protagonist. So think about Jaws. This is where we know there's a shark in the water. We have seen what this shark can do. And then we watch somebody go swimming in the ocean, and we are filled with anticipation and dread, and they don't know what's under the water. So that's the example of suspense. It is building, that is the purpose of it, is to build dread and anxiety. And it's the one rare case where the reader will know more. The reader will know more than the characters. And that's why you're afraid for them. So it's kind of a fun genre. And then there's thriller. So thrillers are all about fast-paced, adrenaline-driven action, danger. It's danger in motion. So that's what I love about thrillers is you are thrown into it. The stakes are escalating. You don't know what's going to happen. There's all kinds of urgency and danger, and and it's something like Fatal Attraction would be an example of that, where this affair happens, it starts, and then it escalates, affecting the guy's work, affecting his family, and until we get to this exciting ending, and then the climax. So that's what basically thrillers do, is they are present tense. They are happening now. They and you're going through it with the character. So that's why they can be very exciting. Okay. So we're going to talk about thriller and the subgenres of thriller. And so what I want you to do here is, if you have pen and paper, this is a good place where to start taking notes if you're not, because what I want you to do is I'm going to just go over these thriller subgenres. If you're wanting to write a thriller, I want you to write down the top 3 that speak to you. And even if you're not writing a thriller, write the top 3 that speak to you, because this is going to inform your writing, and how you're going to implement these tools. So psychological, that's going to focus on the mind. And what we've got here is, it's more mental and emotional. It's more of a slow burn. This is where we find our unreliable narrators. We often are, these psychological thrillers, the main character might not have the strongest grip on reality. This is about mental tension over physical tension. So these are mind games, paranoia, obsession, delusion, guilt. That's what psychological is. They can be a slower burn, but it's building, building, building. And then a crime mystery, centering on a criminal act, organized crime, that kind of thing. That's going to be plot-driven suspense revolving around preventing or solving a crime with escalating danger and urgency as well. The protagonist is typically a law enforcement officer, detective, or lawyer. The antagonist is typically a criminal, but instead of trying to solve a crime that already happened, the crime mystery thriller is, the crime is unfolding in real time, or it's just happened and there's a whole aftermath that we are still dealing with. We're not with Detective Perot, I can't say his first name. We're not him showing up with a body and going, okay, let's look at the clues. This is a very active type of a book. Domestic thrillers are super interesting, and it's one of my favorites. Domestic thrillers are set literally in a very familiar environment, like a home, a school, a neighborhood, a workplace. They are exploring the dangers that lurk behind closed doors. And what I love about domestic thrillers is that it's about, can you really trust the people that you love? And so there's a whole extra level of terror in that, when you close the doors at night and you can't trust maybe the person you're with. It's very, very interesting, or at work, or in your neighborhood, or at school, if you're writing for younger people. So or friend groups, it can also be friend groups. So the key traits are, the setting is familiar. It's a normal setting where you normally can trust people. And the main themes are betrayal, secrets, manipulation, infidelity, hidden past, that kind of thing. Having a hidden past, lies, that kind of thing. Again, it's psychological tension, and betrayal is a big part of these books. And I'll go a little faster over some of these. Like an eco thriller is kind of what it says. It's really about the environment. It's about usually a very driven protagonist who's trying to save, the world, or a certain ecosystem, or whatever, or a planet even. And the antagonist is typically a corporation, or a government. And there's usually greed involved. And the plot centers, on saving this ecosystem. High tension, fast paced, and there's also there can be a speculative aspect to this, like in Jurassic Park, where it's like it's considered an eco thriller because they're gonna bring dinosaurs back and create this park to go enjoy them, and it all goes terribly awry. Even my book Lies Like Wildfire, which is about the wildfires in California, is like an eco thriller because the kids accidentally start a fire and it just rages out of control because of climate change and all of that. So it becomes very high stakes as they try to cover it up. The action thriller that you've seen the movies. It's just any movie. Protagonists become heroic. The stakes are life or death. Lots of physical action. The legal political thriller. Those are really fun. Like think John Grisham. These stories feature conspiracies and courtrooms and government corruption and power struggles. And then the medical thriller is geared around hospitals, science, experiments, deadly viruses, unethical, governments, conspiracies, that kind of thing. Again, life or death stakes. The techno thriller, that's going to be your AI books, your like science, military, cutting edge, types of innovations, cyber warfare, biotechnology, espionage. Those like techno thrillers are something I've never been that interested in, but some of you are going, yes, that's my jam. So those are really popular. And then spy thrillers, that's espionage, covert missions, international intrigue. Think Bond, James Bond. That one is like the least favorite of mine. But I know some of you are like, I like to watch them. I just don't want to write them. But some of you are like, yes, I would. You're into that. So these feature double agents, betrayals, and geopolitical stakes. So just take a second and write down your top three. I definitely know mine is psychological, domestic, and maybe action or eco action. And this will tell you also, whatever three you circle, those are also books you might enjoy reading. Find books in that genre and read them. Okay, so keep that handy as we go to this prompt. Okay, so here it's pretty self-explanatory. I just want you to write a 1 to 3 sentence thriller hook, but if it's not a thriller, if you're writing contemporary, just write your hook. But have these, and we're going to get more into the thriller elements, but I just want you to have kind of a story idea in mind, or write down maybe a hook for whatever you're currently writing. And I just put 2 examples up there, just kind of inspire you with your own hook. So I will give you 2-3 minutes for that. 3 minutes. One more minute. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and go on to the next slide. These two examples, the first one is Lies Like Wildfire, and the second one is my other thriller, one of my other thrillers, Friends Like These. Okay. And writing these little hooks also helps focus your book as you write. Okay, so now we're going to look at red herrings. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now we're getting into specific tricks to bring your story to life, to keep your reader on edge. You really do want that roller coaster effect of like when you throw in a betrayal or you throw in an unreliable narrator, it's like the reader thinks they're going one way and then bam, they're suddenly changed in another direction. And these kinds of we're going to go over reversals and betrayals and suspense and all of that. It's all like a roller coaster. The suspense is just when you go tick, 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 you're going up the roller coaster, tick, 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 before you drop. That's suspense. Then there's the drop, which is just pure thrill. And then there's these twists and turns you do not see coming. And then it's all also driven by speed. So with the occasional, another kind of trick that roller coasters use is they'll suddenly stop or they'll pretend that they're broken. I was on one that it pretended it was broken, and then all of a sudden we dropped a whole floor and we took off backwards. So that was really fun. I loved it. I was laughing the whole time. Anyway, so we want to do that to our reader. We want them to have no idea what's going to happen next. So anyway, these are the ways to do that. So the first one is red herrings. So this is giving false clues, misdirection to keep your reader guessing. I have a secret here. I'm going to give you, this is worth all the trouble I had in the beginning, but this secret will help bring every book you write to life. Give every character a secret. Now, this secret doesn't have to be related to the plot. It helps make them suspicious, or it helps keep the protagonist off guard, because even if, say, one of the characters is planning a birthday party for like a surprise party for another character, and they're acting suspicious, it's just a surprise party, but we don't know that, and the protagonist doesn't know that, or they are maybe applying for a job, or whatever they're doing, they're hiding it from someone because they want to wait until it happens, or it's a surprise until they tell the truth. So they are not bad, they're not lying, they're withholding information, and so that makes them suspicious, and it's a real reason to make them suspicious versus just trying to make someone act shady for no reason. Give them a secret. What are they? Or maybe they have a past that they're trying to hide. Maybe they are helping the protagonist, but they don't want the protagonist to know that, so they're secretive about it. So you just if you give every character a secret, you have opportunity to keep to put suspicion on multiple people, keep the protagonist really off guard, and if the protagonist is off guard, then your reader is off guard, and that off guard reader will turn the page because they have to know what this character is up to. So there's a red herring doesn't even have to be completely a person. It can be like the diary in Gone Girl. You're reading the diary and you're believing it, but it's a misdirection. In One of Us is Lying, which is a YA thriller, there's someone who dies and everyone has a motive. So that's another way to make people suspicious. Everybody has a motive. There can be the easy, a lot of red herrings are the bad guy or the bad boy or the mean girl are easy to pin blame on. So you can use your narcissists or your bad people, your kind of bullies and stuff to be look guilty, but they're not the ones, but they still look guilty. Um, Best friends hiding a secret from their best friend makes them suspicious. So anyway, so these are all ways that you can kind of add like insecurity to the book, uncertainty to the book, so that the reader has to know what is going on. And one example of a red herring that would not throw you off guard because you wouldn't see it coming, but it plays come into play later, is a book like The Sixth Sense. And The Sixth Sense, or not, it's not a book, it's a movie. But the boy is interacting with the therapist who is dead, but he's interacting with the therapist as if the therapist is alive. And that's a red herring. That's throwing us off guard. We think that the kid is seeing a therapist. And later when we find out that the therapist is a ghost, we'll understand this. He didn't want the therapist. He realized the therapist didn't know he was dead, and he didn't want to shock him with that information. So he let him come to it on his own terms later in the story. And then when you watch it again, that really comes into play, that misdirection. And I also want to say another thing about The Sixth Sense. This is an example of, so when the M. Night Shyamalan, when he came up with this story, it very easily could have been where we knew from the beginning that the therapist was dead. So this is what kind of makes it exciting. He withheld that information from us. It would have been a great story, like, hey, let's do a movie about a kid who sees dead people, and he meets a ghost therapist, and they have this relationship, but they know, but the audience knows that the guy is dead. That's a whole different movie than what we got. By just not telling us he was dead, that it made that movie something I still think about when that reveal comes. And if you haven't seen it, it's over 20 years old, right? So sorry for the spoilers, but that is an example of why thrillers are about how the story is told, not the story itself. That information doesn't change the story at all. It changes our experience. It made it exciting for us, but it didn't really affect. It still could have been a really interesting story with a kid talking to a dead therapist who doesn't know he's dead. You still could have told the whole story like straightforward. So whenever you think about writing a book and you're writing it straightforward, like it's contemporary, ask yourself, what can I withhold that's going to, make the reader, throw the reader off guard? And then that's where you can put in red herrings to throw them off even further. But it's really in how you tell the story. Do you have to tell everything up front? And I'm not talking about info dumping, but what can you withhold that you can dribble in later or use at the end as a twist? So anyway, we'll talk more about that. But this is red herrings is our first tip on how to write a thriller. Every thriller has red herrings in it. So you will not know who did it or who the bad guy is. You should not know in a thriller. Okay, then we go to, come on. Oh, there we go. Unreliable narrators. This is another common feature of thrillers. And with an unreliable narrator, these are the ways to do it. You can either have a character with a faulty memory or missing memories. You can have a narcissist, that's someone who they believe their own lies. So you don't know they're lying because they believe it, so it's being told as truth. There's charlatans, tricksters, there's false identities. And they are basically there because we can't. Now, when you can't trust the main character, when you start to doubt their version of reality, you are even more involved in the book, because now you really want to know what's going on and they why you don't trust them. Like, is their memory false, or does it just appear that way? I mean, you won't know until you get to the end. It keeps the reader off balance, and it also, by contrast, can make the antagonist seem trustworthy. So if you have a character who's maybe insecure about how they remember events, or they're not sure what happened, or they're lying to us, and then you have a antagonist who is honest, they're not good, but they're honest, and they seem like they actually do know the truth, and maybe they seem more mentally sound. You can actually end up trusting the antagonist and not trusting the protagonist. And you won't know that until the end. Sometimes you won't even know this is the protagonist. You're going to think the unreliable narrator could be the antagonist or the protagonist. Like, you're just going to be off balance. And so one example of this is Gone Girl, where we're on the side of the wife, and she's written this diary that how awful her husband is. And then halfway through, it all flips, and we realize she has been lying to us the entire time, and so has he. So it flips you back and forth. It's a roller coaster. So unreliable narrators are really, really, really great to add to a story. And it doesn't have to be the protagonist. It can be other characters, but it's best when it's the protagonist. And also, we don't always remember things correctly. We think we do. So playing with memory, playing with maybe alcoholism, drug addiction, that kind of thing can also help. Okay, so let's go to reversals and betrayals. These are some of my favorites. And I see okay, so we have time. Okay, reversals are when the stories take a sharp, unexpected turn that upends your assumptions. So it's not just surprise, it forces you to reinterpret what you thought you knew. So the way to do this is first you have to set up clear expectations. You want the reader to think they know what's going on. And so what you want to do is build like patterns or rules or goals that feel predictable. For example, a suspect flees town, so you think that they're guilty. A best friend who's always loyal, you think they're trustworthy. But then you twist that assumption, you flip the pattern, but it has to feel earned. It can't just be random. So the suspect did flee town, but it wasn't to escape. It was because they were protecting somebody. So so that's a reversal. Like, oh, they weren't just running. They weren't running from the police because they were bad. They had a different reason. So that would be considered a reversal. And you would have clues in the story that would make sense in hindsight. Once you realize the reversal, then those clues become more obvious, or you realize that the clues were there. So readers will realize you were telling them the truth. They just didn't believe you. And then once the reversal happens, then they understand. There can be, again, the good guy is the bad guy. You put everything upside down on its head. And these reversals, they escalate the stakes. It's not just like if we find out somebody fled to protect someone else, well, now we know that person's in danger. So like that can escalate the stakes. Instead of being relieved, oh, they're not bad, we're actually more worried because we know why, and now we know this goes deeper than we ever thought. So you just want to play with reader expectations, and a way to do that is to build trust with your reader, and then just pull the rug out from under them. Just completely let them see like they were wrong to. I mean, this isn't what they thought was happening. But again, the little clues were planted along the way. In Lives Like Wildfire, the reader thinks like the goal of the group is to stay together forever, to always be friends, and then they start this fire. The reversal is one of the reversals is that when the pressure of hiding of this big secret kind of weighs on them, they fracture and they no longer want to be together forever. And that leads to betrayals. So reversals, it flips the story upside down, roles change, and the truth unravels. And a betrayal is when the trust between characters is broken, and usually when it matters most. So, sorry, let me go back to where I was. Okay, so betrayal is when, so it's going to be a reversal of dynamics. So first you want to establish trust between the characters. When you're going to write a betrayal, you want to really show the trust first. The deeper the trust, the deeper the bond, the sharper the betrayal is going to be. So you want to you have to show the one to so for the betrayal to really make an impact. The betrayer needs to have a justifiable motive. So the best betrayals come from a believable human reason. So fear, ambition, jealousy, or survival, like they don't just betray because they just woke up on the wrong side of the bed. They're trying to maybe save their own life, or they're trying to get ahead, or they met somebody else. So you want to ground the betrayal in the depths of human emotion. And that also makes it even sharper because you can even understand sometimes both sides, sometimes you can't. But they really need a good reason, like any antagonist, they're the hero of their own story, right? So this betrayal needs to come from a deep place in the betrayer, unless they're just a jerk, right? But why is your character trusting this jerk? So that's why you want these emotions to go to the deepest levels possible, because then it's just more believable, and it's more, the stakes are just much higher. So again, you're going to show tiny cracks in the loyalty before the betrayal. Sometimes you see these coming, little not answering a text or something like that, but they're trying to explain it away. But eventually the betrayal happens at a peak moment. So that's the other key with a betrayal, is it needs to happen in a point of the plot where that protagonist needs them the absolute most. That's when the betrayal happens. Like right when maybe the wife finds out she's pregnant, she also finds out her husband's been cheating the same day, right? That makes it more impactful. Sorry to the family, but you have to put your characters through a lot of pain in thrillers, so that you can then put their world back together by the end. So you want to always choose that peak moment for the betrayal, or right when they're about to give the big presentation to the boss, the one undercuts the other one. So selecting when to do it is just as important as doing it. And then let's see. So you can combine these where the betrays somebody, but then later we do a reversal on that and we find out they were actually helping them, but they just couldn't explain at the time. So you can do a double reversal with a betrayal. You can do a betrayal as the climax, like at the very end, we find out that the ally is actually the villain. So this supportive sidekick, best friend throughout the whole book, is actually the villain, has been setting them up all along. And then we look back and we go, oh, I see those clues. There's also betrayals that change who the alliances, where you suddenly align with maybe someone that was the villain, but they're actually not, and now you align with that person. So you can really play with betrayals and reversals and putting them together. And another example is We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. That's a book and a TV show. The reversal, like at the end, if you haven't, it's another spoiler, so you haven't seen it. But the reveal at the end is that the main characters are, well, the main character is alive, but all her best friends are dead. So she didn't know that. So that was a big kind of twist reversal at the end. And it works because the betrayal is actually reality. She was lying to herself, or she was in denial. So the reversal there is that now she understands reality, which it's a really good reversal on that one. It's kind of like the Sixth Sense. Okay, now we're going to the final twist. Now, thrillers are built on twists. So you've got your red herrings, your suspicion, your misdirections, your reversals, your betrayals, your unreliable narrators. You've got all these things going on, and our readers they love the twist. So a great twist, the best twist, needs to be earned and foreshadowed, but obviously still a surprise, right? It needs to be unexpected, yet once it happens, you're like, that was inevitable. So it's a shock, but not a surprise. It reframes, the best twist reframe the entire story and what the story was actually about. It deepens emotional impact, makes the reader reevaluate the whole story, and I'll get to the double twist in a minute, but it's shock plus inevitability. So it has to feel like once it actually happens, it was the only outcome that was ever possible. And how did you miss it? That's the key. So readers should really kick themselves for not seeing it sooner. And I know when I reached the end of The Sixth Sense, I had to watch it again. Like, how did I miss that? And then once you he's dead, it's obvious throughout the whole book, the whole movie. So I highly recommend that as like a mentor. Even though it's a movie, it's like a mentor text. The twist should force readers to reinterpret everything that they thought they knew in a new light. So like what looked like kindness was actually manipulation. Or what looked like manipulation was actually somebody trying to help somebody else. So there should be that emotional punch of like, wow, I had this all backwards. A twist should hit the heart, not just the head. So it works best if it raises moral questions or forces like a devastating choice. So yeah, you always want to think too, I always think about the heart, like depending on what your characters want and need and believe in their worldview, that is going to shape your twist. It's going to shape your whole story, but your twist has to resonate deeply within your character, and it will resonate within your reader as well. So steps to building this twist are: what is the core lie that your protagonist believes? So thrillers thrive on deception. And so decide what your story is making readers believe that is not true. So the narrator, so I just confused myself. So what's the core lie that your character believes, and how can you twist that when you get to the truth? So if the narrator is reliable, the killer could be, that my notes just got messed up here. Okay, so never mind that. But you want to use distractions that are plausible but false. You want to plant them close enough to the truth so readers don't notice what's missing, and then drop tiny details that can be interpreted two ways, so that your reader is constantly guessing and trying to figure out what's going on. And then when you reveal, you save that for the final act or chapter. You reveal the truth, and that twist arrives at the climax or right sometimes after if there's a double twist, making the reader, you can have a false victory and then put the twist right after that. So the story, the protagonist thinks they have figured everything out, and then that twist comes. So there's also, you also want to give them that success, like they think they know, or the reader thinks they know. And then we have that final twist where we realize that the protagonist was lying to us, or the antagonist was not who we thought they were. So we want to tie all this into theme so that it settles into the deeper meaning of your book. So you want to think, what is the theme of your book? And one way, an easy way to kind of help figure out your theme is to just think, what's the point? Why did I write this? It's not just a series of happenings. There's a reason why you chose to write this story and choose these characters. And what was the point of that? What are you trying to say? Are you trying to make a point that goes deeper than just plot happenings? Because there's plot and theme, and they work together. And sometimes just a theme could be the cost of loyalty. The twist could show that the most loyal character caused the most harm. So, you just want to play with that. Think about your theme and how that twist can play into it. And some common twists are the hidden identity twist, where the villain or victim is not who we thought. The perspective twist, that's where the narrator was lying, or we were missing key information, like where we realized that half the people in the book were dead and we didn't know it. The motive twist, that's where the crime was never about money or jealousy, but it was about something deeper. The relationship twist, that's where a trusted ally or loved one was involved in the negative thing that happened. They were involved all along, which is a domestic thriller. The meta twist, that's where the story's framework itself changes. Like, we find out these diaries that we've been reading are actually all fabricated. And that would be in Gone Girl. And so there's a twist. This is an example of a twist that reveals the theme of a story. So if you saw a movie called The Others, it was about a mother and children living in a house they think is haunted. And we find out at the end, they are the ones who are dead. People have moved in, and this dead family, they believe that the people moving in are ghosts, but it's actually the reverse. I guess I like these types of stories with dead people. But the theme that is revealed there is grief and denial and the inability to let go. So that's the deeper theme of The Others. It's not being able to leave this house and being in denial that they have died. So that's why that twist works so deeply, is we can relate to that. Fight Club, which is a movie and book also. It was a book first. The narrator and Tyler are the same person. So the theme that's revealed is that the alienation in consumer culture and the search for identity are intricately part of that story. The search, he doesn't even recognize himself. So that ties into the theme. And then same with We Were Liars. It was that it's guilt, grief, and self-deception again are revealed by the twist. So that's how you make a powerful twist. Connect it deeply to your theme. So it really enhances that theme. And it also makes the reader evaluate the entire story. A double twist is kind of to be avoided unless it really, really works, because some people just put twists in for the sake of a twist, and you don't want to do that. They can be overdone as well. And the key is really to tie it into the heart. If you do that, you don't need to rely on tricks. This will all come naturally as part of your story, as long as you really know what your characters want, what they believe, and what the theme of your story is. Okay. We're getting to the end here, and I'll take questions, but the 3-act structure, this is just a way to think about writing a thriller is, you set the fuse in the beginning and, introducing the character setting, hinting at the danger, and then having your inciting incident. And then Act 2, your secrets are mounting, your trust is eroding. And at the midpoint, there's a twist that changes the understanding. And then maybe at this point, the protagonist starts to act differently, trust different people. Maybe they start to change how they're operating in this world. And then act three is the detonation where the truth emerges and moral choices are made. And then you have your emotional peak and your twists at the end. That's just, I think most of you know that, but I just wanted to kind of, that 3-act structure really works well with thrillers. Okay, the final summary of tips and tricks is give each character a secret. When you write your thriller or your novel, if it's contemporary or romance, world build your story as if it's a fantasy novel, meaning your reader could be in another country. They could be, a person maybe living in a big city versus someone living in a rural area. They might be someone who has not traveled. So if you're writing about, if your story is set, say, in New York City, imagine writing for readers who have never been there or have never even lived in a big city or that live in a foreign country, have never been to the US. I know when I read British literature, I love the things that are different. It feels, exciting to, see the different words, to see what they eat, to see how they travel, to see their traditions. Even though I'm not reading a historical and I'm not reading something about British culture, but I'm just reading a book and I'm just getting absorbed in it. And so when you write your book, whether it's set in a suburb or a big city or in the country, remember that not everyone lives the way these characters live. So let us see the reality of their life. Don't think that, oh, everyone knows what it's like to live in a city, or everyone knows Chicago, or everyone knows San Francisco. They don't. They may not realize the hills in San Francisco. So like getting those details in will ground your story in reality, but also be very exciting to people who have never been and maybe live somewhere flat or live somewhere. I know when I went to Dusseldorf, nobody really had cars. They didn't really drive cars. The kids and the adults, they took buses and so anyway, so when I wrote Lives Like Wildfire, I had that in mind. Like, these kids have to drive everywhere they want to go. They lived in the mountains in the rural area, and everything was far away. So just having people, what they eat, how they operate in their daily life, that's exciting. And then ask always, this is my favorite writing trick, or tip, I should say. I don't, maybe, and not a trick, but is always write the worst thing that can happen next. So whenever you're stuck, just think, given my character and what they want out of life, out of this story, what's the worst thing I can do to them? And then make that happen, because it will also keep your story going, because it's going to raise the stakes. Use setting as a character. So when you choose your setting and your time of year, make that a character in the book. That kind of, again, goes with the theme. And then choose when you have multiple characters and you don't know who to choose to write the point of view, choose the protagonist with the highest stakes. So in Lives Like Wildfire, I have 5 best friends, and I had to decide I wanted one point of view. 5 would have been too many. So for me, I think it's too many. So I chose the sheriff's daughter. She was my point of view character because her dad's the sheriff. So the stakes were highest for her when they start a fire and lie about it, because her father is hunting her down because he's looking for the people who started the fire. So it added a lot of extra tension to the story, that she lives with she's hiding that she started it, and he's trying to find who started it, and they live together. So that was really fun. And so that's why I chose her. When I say the next one is don't marry your killer. And in a thriller, because this is super common is that when you get to the end, the person you thought all along did not do it. because you have all of these red herrings and you have all these suspicious people, they actually, any one of them could be the one who did it, the murder or whatever. And so sometimes be open to the fact that when you get to the end, you're like, actually, it was this person. And this happens to all my thriller writing friends where we get to the end and we're like, they didn't, that's not who did it. It was this guy and, or this girl. And we see that we seeded in the clues all along. We just, so, don't, I like to, if you have multiple suspicious characters, you have options. So just keep your options open when you get to the end of the book. And for me, I write my book, I write my first draft, and then I kind of write, and then now I know the theme, and then I kind of go backward and sprinkle in more support for that theme, and I switch up the plot elements, and then I write forward again. That's just my process. Other people have different processes, but I find I don't really fully understand the theme until I really understand the characters. So I like to write to the end, and then I kind of go back and support with plot and emotional, arcs. I support that theme. And lastly, or not lastly, almost last, your first idea may not be your best idea. So always challenge your first idea. I used to be married to my first ideas, like, yeah, let's go with that. But I've learned to really interrogate my ideas. Is that the best way to tell this story? Is that, could I go deeper with that, or could I do something else? My first ideas are just sometimes my easiest ideas. And so I really learned not to hold them in such high regard and to really challenge them and think if I can go deeper, tell the story in a better way. And then, and I'm also, the reason I prolific is I just believe in making the clay, and the clay is the draft. So I always say, just write it, just make the clay, and then you can shape it into the story. Once you get the elements down. So I like to lay down that first draft as quickly as possible, like under 3 months. And then I can play with it at my leisure and make it stronger and better. Okay. And then, yeah, so that is pretty much what I have to offer other than now answering questions. I hope I didn't go too fast, but I hope that resonated with you, and I would love to hear your questions. Oh, why don't I hear you, Sharon? Are you talking? Here, let me stop sharing.
Because my mic's off.
Oh,
I was gonna say, do you want to unshare your screen so we can see you up there?
yes.
And then everybody, if you put your hands up using your raise hand little tool, that that'll help me take the questions as they come in. Anybody got a question? Carol, start us
Oh,
off. Oh, let me
oh,
add you too so that we can see you.
oh, sorry. I was offering kudos. Sorry, but I just did want to say thank you to Jennifer I gave a talk about genre once, and I don't know if you remember me querying you about that, and you sent me such a thoughtful email about it. And it had to do with defining um, kind of YAMG children's books by not only who reads them, but who they are about. And that was super helpful um, for me in framing that for some people that I gave the talk to, which is the California Writers Club out here. Um, and I guess as far as did I have a question about your thing, I'll leave other people to ask that because I think you just had everything in there and a lot of stuff to inspire us. So I'll just leave that.
Yay. Thanks, Carol. Elizabeth, let's go to you.
Hi, Jennifer, that was great. Thank you so much. Super fun. I was actually curious if you'd be willing to say a little bit more about what you meant about writing forward and then backward and then forward again. Like, do you literally go last chapter, second to last chapter, third to last chapter? Or, yeah, I'm just curious about that
Yeah.
process. It's kind of intriguing.
Yeah, I kind of do. I mean, I once I write forward, I have that draft. I do sort, I mean, I just kind of go backward. I might skip a chapter if I'm happy with it, but I just kind of go back and start seeing where can I strengthen this? Because I kind of make notes as I go. Even on my first draft, I don't like to edit while I'm writing. I just like to write the whole thing. But I've made notes, so I just seem to kind of go back and go, okay, I know what I need to add here and here and here and here. A lot of times the beginning is okay, although I usually will end up rewriting the first chapter now that I really know where it's going. But I just kind of go back through and then and just kind of fix things sort of just based on my notes and what I've noticed that I need to add. And then I go forward again from the beginning, and now I know I've already put some of the notes, I've already implemented some of my notes into the draft, but now I go back and when I get back to the beginning, I go forward again. And now I know pretty much everything about the book that I need to know. And so I can go forward from the beginning and really work on the emotional arcs and when information is revealed, and what I want to withhold. If I've said too much, then I go ahead and I can start withholding it, planning where I'm going to withhold information. But yeah, I tend to do that. It's forward, backward, forward again. Oh, that's Carol's
Thank you
process
so
as
much.
well. Yeah, sure.
That's a neat way to do it. Maybe I should try that next time. It might save me a few dozen rounds. Okay, Virginia.
Hi, yeah, thanks, Jennifer. This has been really fun. I don't write thrillers, but I feel like so much of this is helpful in creating, momentum and suspense and interesting characters. And I was wondering, since you've written young adult novels, and you were talking about the unreliable narrator, do you ever use childhood, as like a teenager who doesn't really understand, looks back and doesn't understand what happened because they were a child? As an a form of unreliable narrator? Or-
I'm not sure I've done that, but 100% that would really work, because a child is not teenager or younger is not fully understanding the world properly, and they just don't have the experience, right? So that
Yeah.
lack of experience can definitely be used to make them unreliable, or you know yeah, they're just working maybe with limited knowledge, or they are so emotional about what's happening that they are either in denial, or they're overreacting, which I hate to use that word, but it is possible to overreact, because they just aren't maybe mature enough. But yeah, you can go back. A lot of us can look back and see where we went along with things or just didn't understand what was going on. And we were operating from that system, thinking that we did know what was going on. So, yeah, you can definitely use their inexperience. And I love writing unreliable teens, and even teens that do bad things, because they're good people doing bad things. They don't necessarily mean it. They are operating from that limited experience. Whereas when I write about adults, if they did the same things as my teens, it's like, come on, you should know better. But these kids, I just have such empathy for them, and they're I've heard that saying, they can't see around corners. They can't see around corners. So you can play with that. And they can make some pretty darn bad decisions. So, but when an adult does it, it's not as cute.
Okay, thank you so much. That's really helpful.
Sure.
Thanks, Virginia. And yeah, I agree with Virginia that I don't write thrillers, but this has been great, Jen, because I just doing exercises. I think that I'm further along now in the next novel than I was before. Lisa.
Yeah, hi Jen. Thanks so much for that. That was so helpful. I was furiously scribbling notes, and as I go back to my plot that is fighting me tomorrow. I'll have lots of ideas. But I was really curious. I know that you have no qualms about writing a draft and then tossing the whole thing out. So I wonder though, I was really interested in this idea of not marrying your first ideas. And I wonder if you have some process in place where you can test an idea before you write that draft, or if your test is just to write the draft.
To write the draft, but as part of the revision, I almost look at my first ideas as great placeholder ideas, you know. Sometimes they stick, sometimes they are, you know, in the writing process, the magic can happen and you just go, oh my gosh, I never would have thought of that. It just came to me while I was writing. Those, I still interrogate them and challenge them, but they usually stick. But sometimes it's like, what I do is just kind of ask myself a series of questions like, is this believable? Is this the best way this could be done? What else could be going on? You know, what if these, you know, how can I connect these characters more deeply together? I have a book I'm writing right now where a child was run over by a car in a hit and run. It happens before the book opens, and we're following the mother. And my first idea was, you know, oh, this is just part of her backstory. I threw it in there to be part of her backstory. It's very important to the theme of the book. But then it hit me like, how about if the person, or you know, who hit the child, because it's unsolved who hit the child. As I interrogated that, I thought, how can I relate this deeper into the story? How can I use this in a better way than just she lost a child and that's the end of it, and now she's dealing with her grief? Well, one is they're not sure. She was investigated. Maybe she hit her child. And they never, and the thing, you know, because you can accidentally run over someone and not realize it. Because her mother, she had dementia, and her mother kind of they don't know if the kid didn't get outside. So anyway, I started playing with how about the police investigated her and she doesn't know if she hit her child, but she doesn't think she did. But when she went to the store, the girl had gotten outside. Did she hit her? But what I ended up deciding too is that the person who actually did is someone she knows. It was an accident, but someone she knows drove by and actually did hit the child and ran, and now is living with that, and is still in her life. So as the police get a new lead, we will find, and I'm giving away so much, but the mom did not run over her child, but the person who did, I'm not going to say who, but it is going to be a huge like reveal, you know. And so I was able to bring that into the story in much deeper ways, where it's not just backstory anymore. Now it's also active story. And at the very end, we're going to find out who ran over her child, and she's going to find out it's someone she knows. So yeah, so just asking those questions, how can I connect this deeper into my characters, my plot? How can I make it work harder than just the one thing I want it there for? What else can it do? How much, you know, can this pull? How much weight can this pull? So
Great, thank you.
sure.
And by the time your book comes out, I'll have forgotten who did it, so don't worry about that.
I know. I'm such a non-spoiler person, and I'll tell you, if you write thrillers, they suck to promote because you can't say anything about them. You know, it's just so hard. But anyway.
Thanks.
Nice pixie, by the way, Lisa.
Oh yeah, it's very cute.
All right, Harry. Welcome, Harry, to your first workshop with us. And
Thank you.
And the mic is yours.
So when you're building tension and you're dealing with these very dark subject matters, negative emotions, I find that for me it can be very difficult to sit long enough in them to like bring them fully to the page in the way that they would need to be there for a reader to also experience it. And I've seen this for other people that I've worked with as well. So do you have any advice for like how do you mindset yourself into being okay with that and doing a good job rather than cutting and running early?
Yeah, there can be an emotional drain writing these books, and so what I do, the way I look at my stories is almost more as cautionary tales. So I know in the end, no matter how dark it is, I'm going to put everybody back together. So I might go in and destroy everything with a baseball bat, but I will put it back together better than it was. And a lot of times that's really the point of the story. Like at the end, there's healing, in some way, right? So even in like The Sixth Sense, at the end, the therapist realizes he's dead. So he basically, the kid was almost doing therapy on him, but he kind of, realizes and he can move on. And the kid also got helped. He actually was a good therapist. So sad and dark as that story was. And also there was a kid being tortured by and killed by her mother. That is also through the story revealed. And the mother was also trying to kill the second daughter. She had Munchausen syndrome. I don't know if you remember that about the book, but that whole case got solved. So we had a case get solved, a therapist move on to the afterlife, and a child, heal and accept the fact that he can see dead people and be okay with it. So that for me, that's what helps me dive in is, and even in the book I'm writing now, this mother's going to find out that she did not run over her child. And that's going to be a huge healing point for her. Also, the person who did is going to get there's going to be justice for the little girl. And so that's what keeps me going, is knowing that I will put them back together better than they are now. And also sometimes in the cautionary tale that a lot of thrillers are, for instance, Fatal Attraction, very dark things happen, very bad things happen. The poor rabbit, if you haven't seen it, the rabbit, the rabbit. But at the end, how many people didn't cheat because of that movie? Like I don't know. How many people still don't go in the water because of Jaws? I mean, I don't know, that was the point of Jaws, but that's not we should go in the water, right? But these movies can actually affect behavior. So you can show, hey, cheating is bad, or well, water is not bad, but you know what I'm saying. So you can leave the reader with sort of a moral message through the darkness. So that's how I do it.
Thank you very much.
Uh-huh.
Thanks, Harry, and welcome.
Yeah.
Monica, on the other hand, is a very regular attendee. Oh, Monica, we can't hear you for some reason. Yeah, you're not on mute, but your mic's not working.
Oh, headphones.
Is that it?
Yep.
Yes. Yeah, we can hear you now.
I had headphones on. Anyway, yes, I love this. Thank you. And I don't even write thrillers. So, although I do think I have one story in my collection that has a little bit of a thriller thing, there's a mystery in there. But I do watch them a lot. And as you're talking about it, I'm thinking about, the idea of the themes and the characters and them being, the way they get connected to each other through an emotion. And I'm wondering what you think about tropes in the crime. There's always like the detective who has a hard time with relationships. And as you get to know the detective over the course of the series, you begin to understand what it is and understand his behavior, etc. So what do you think about that? And do you try to use those at all? Or, I mean, they have variations from one series to another, but I'm just wondering what you think about it, because
So I love tropes for the following reason, because it sets up reader expectation. So I love your example, the detective who's not good at relationships. How can you turn that on its head, right? So the great thing about a trope is that, like, for even people will just come to expect, oh, I think I know what's going on. He's going to be this type of person, and then you flip that on its head. You can use tropes to shock a reader to do the wrong thing, or do a different thing than what's expected. And one example, it's kind of a trope, is in Game of Thrones in episode 1, we have this patriarch, strong guy, patriarch, family, you know, super smart guy. He's the hand of the king. And the king like summons him, if I remember right, it's been years. But this, I was like, oh yeah, I know this story. This strong patriarch of this big family, he's gonna like the king's opposed with him. There's gonna be like a civil war or whatever. There's gonna be some kind of war. The patriarch's gonna win. I was like, I've seen this story a million times. I don't even need to watch this. I was really like bored with it. I mean, not bored, but it was visually very interesting. But I was like, I know this story. And then, bam, the king just cuts his head off in the first 10 minutes of the movie or whatever, this show. And I was like, what? Like, that is not supposed to happen. Like, he was set up as the protagonist, you know? And I'm like, oh, we're going to follow this hero and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, they killed him. And so that the Game of Thrones, you know, kept throwing your expectations on your head like over and over and over. You were so off balance not knowing what was going to happen in that show. It's very good at playing with expectations. So you can use a trope to play with expectations. And you could have a love triangle. I would never do this myself, but you could have a love triangle that ends up being a threesome, you know, like it does not go the way you think it's going to go. It doesn't go toward the whole like usual love triangle thing. Or you could have the you know, the best friend trope, like they're best friends and they're going to end up, they really do love each other. Throw that on its head. Have one kill the other one, you know, have one betray the other one. Like throw it on its head in a way that will shock the reader. And actually tropes make it, they're just beautiful for that, you know, is playing with that reader expectations. So yeah, Game of Thrones did it very, very, very well. So that's what I think about tropes.
But
Thank
you're
you.
really talking about using tropes in order to flip them rather than just using them straight, right?
Yeah, I don't believe in using them straight. Yeah, I mean, is my okay, so sometimes just for the reader to feel safe, then I would use one. Like let the reader have this safe trope in the background, like a side character, and have it actually be, because readers need a break from the tension. So you need sometimes a little bit of humor, sometimes like that safe kind of relationship, or having a pet, you know, that the person, you know, somebody has a pet that, you know, it's a good relationship. So you can have positive things in your thriller. In fact, you need them. So you could use a trope that way where the reader can just go, I can take a breath. This is safe. This is actually what I think it is, you know. You need those moments. So, but when it comes to a reversal or a twist, the whole point is setting up that expectation, and a trope kind of helps you because it's already built into the reader, kind of helps you get there and make it more shocking.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to remove everybody's spotlights so that we can just, or I can, because my camera is gonna see the whole room. So I just want to see the whole room so they could give Jennifer a big round of applause. Thank you, Jen, so much for being here. Congratulations on like Thriller 5 and 6 and book. I don't know book what, so it must be. How many novels does that make?
Well, 11 published, so it'll be 12 and 13.
12 and 13. So big congratulations. Thank you so much for taking the time and giving us all these tips and getting us all thinking about how to use twists and turns in our own writing. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for being with me too for the whole stuff in the beginning, and yeah, thank you for being such a great audience.
You're very welcome. Thanks for spending time with us. And I see Eric now in the corner and Greg. Thanks all of you regulars for coming again, Yvonne, everyone. And see you next month, I hope. Bye.
Yes. Bye.